Hopefully this time I have audio for this, because this isn't the first bloody time I've had to record this video. So welcome to a new series on my channel. Channel 7 Cylinders News. I still don't have a funny name for this. This is a weekly up-to-date video series I want to do, talking about the news in Supercars, the other major Australian categories and New Zealand categories, and also stuff around the world for those that aren't on my TikTok and want to hear what I have to say about the news. If you like this video and you want to see more, give a like and a subscribe. The support will be very much appreciated for this style of content. So first, just catching up with stuff from the Supercars weekend. Because Cameron Waters got a pole on Friday and Saturday, that actually broke the record for the most poles from a manufacturer in touring car history. Now Ford has it over Holden. In fact, they just went +1 because he got the pole on Sunday as well. Because of Holden not existing anymore, it was a matter of if, not when, this record was broken, so it's not as impressive as it could have been. After his weekend, Cameron Waters also joined the list of drivers that have 315 points for a weekend. He joins Shane Van Gisbergen on that list, who got that on the Bend in 2022. So that's all 3 race wins and all 3 fastest laps. But I think Cameron Waters one-upped him on this because he got all 3 poles as well, and Shane didn't do that. Also, this car has the nickname of the Green-Eyed Monster, going back to the old Green-Eyed Monster, the Craig Lowndes 00 Motorsport car. And in fact, this car already has more wins than the original Green-Eyed Monster did. So, as a bit of food for thought. Nash Morris got his first laps in a Gen 3 car last week as well. There was a ride day after the weekend, and Premier Racing gave him some seat time. Nash Morris actually drives for Tickford in Super 2, now that he's back running in that series after a year in Porsches. But if you're excited to see Nash Morris in as a co-driver, expect to be disappointed, because it seems like Nathan Hearn will be the co-driver for the Premier Stanaway car. He was expected to do a wild card at some point this year, but unfortunately that has been put on the back burner for this season. GM is not expected to bring Cadillac into the series as a Chevrolet Camaro replacement, and the Camaro is expected to stay in the series from until 2027. This is going to be a long stretch of driving the same car with little to no updates. So the GM homologation team have a lot of work on their shoulders, and it'll be interesting to see what they come up with as the replacement, because Chevy, aside from the Corvette, which really isn't good for supercars, in like body style, because they'll Frankenstein it most likely, there isn't really anything for Chevy to race. I mean, unless they want to race an SUV. And finally, for the few rounds of Supercars news, Matt Stone Racing is making a chassis swap. They are last in the team's championships for full-time cars, so they are making this as an emergency. They will be swapping Nick Perricott's car for the car that he ran last year, which is in fact Matt Stone Racing's most successful car. MSR 004 will be back on this track. Actually, it was on track last week. It was just in the hands of Cameron Crick. But now Nick Perricott will be getting the car that he won 2 races with last year. And in support category news, TCR Australia will be heading over to Macau for the last race. Freight and all that sort of stuff will be covered by the category for teams involved. This is very interesting because they had to cancel the Topor round for TCR Australia because of lack of entries, which is a shame, because it would have been awesome to see some TCR New Zealand cars entered, because when Carrera Cup came over last year, they had a few New Zealand Carrera Cup cars get entered from International Motorsport, and that round has been replaced by one from, One Raceway, which I think will be happening in late June. The Australian GT4 series is looking to be the biggest grower of Australian motorsport. There is a 3rd Mustang entered, this one by Wallace Motorsport, and even 888 are getting into the swing of things, entering a Mercedes AMG GT4 car. And there are a few guys in buying existing GT4 cars, like Blake Purdy will be in the series, the former S5000 driver. And the TA2 series will be starting up in Winton. Now, don't get this confused with Trans Am. TA2 is probably more of like the second tier of TA2 cars in Australia, ironically. This is for those guys that have been like shuffled out of Trans Am, and for those guys just getting into high-powered car racing. But it doesn't mean there isn't any big names on the grid here. You got two Dunlop Series drivers entering this round. You've got Ben Gomersall, who just had a brilliant weekend, and also Jared Hughes, who had not so much of a brilliant weekend. Also, TFH Hire Racing is entering 3 cars. And why am I highlighting this team? Well, this is the team that Todd Hazelwood ran for in the 2024 Trans Am Series to win. And also Josh Webster, who just seems like just some random name, but he's collaborating with Marcus Ambrose. So it's cool to see Marcus Ambrose go into a bit of team owner. And finally, for the local news, the Australian Production Car Series was in fact meant to join Trans Am or TA2 at Winton, but unfortunately has had to scrap the first round of the championship. Why? Well, having only 5 cars on the grid doesn't help, so that first round will be at SMP at late May, early June. A lot of people are putting this down to the 12 or the 6 hour, the production car race being so close. So for those in the know and in the future planning a production car calendar, don't have anything before the 6 hour. As for news for categories around the world, while Formula 1 is currently testing. As I record this, day 1 is done. Lando Norris got the fastest lap on day 1, but testing doesn't really fucking matter anyway. Or times for testing, sorry. Haas actually ended up doing the most laps for a team, with Esteban Ocon doing 88 laps on his own. And that also in fact happened to be the least amount of laps for any team. Aston Martin got 88 laps, and Lance Stroll got 42 laps on his own. But like I said, times don't really matter that much in F1 testing. To prove that point, Oscar Piastri got 17th. For a bit of NASCAR news, Dodge is expected to make a comeback to NASCAR. They haven't been in NASCAR in a manufacturer standpoint since 2012, and they will be looking to join the Truck Series in 2026 with a push to Cup for 2028. Any Dodgers entered after 2012 were known as zombie Dodgers. They were privately entered and without any manufacturer support, so they were sort of like dead bodies. So Corey Heim, who is very much a top prospect in the Truck Series, will be a 2311 development driver now. This is the team owned by Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, who is a 3-time Daytona 500 winner. He will be making starts for 2311 as well in the number 67 car, starting in May at Kansas. He should be in the Cup Series, but for whatever reason, he has spent now 3 years in the Truck Series and done well in all those years. He's already got a win in the first 2 races as well. The World Endurance Championship had their pre-season testing session as well, the WEC Prologue as it's called. The number 20 BMW with a very cool looking livery ended up first, with the 38 Cadillac second and the 83 Ferrari in third. And speaking of Ferrari, they got the first 2 positions in LMGT3. Hypercar regulations are looking good, and they are just improving year on year. This year for 2026 there is an interesting rule that they've brought into the World Endurance Championship, mandating 2 cars per manufacturer, and that hasn't really changed much for a lot of teams, but some teams that's changed basically everything. Cadillac has had to find a team for 2 cars. They were originally going to be finding 2 cars anyway because Chip Ganassi aren't running those cars anymore. So Hertz Team Jota, who ran privately entered Porsches last year and in fact won a race as a privateer, will be a factory Cadillac team now. Lamborghini and Isotta Fraschini will not be in the World Endurance Championship this year. They ran 1 car each last year, Lamborghini's going to be focusing on the endurance series in IMSA, and Assetto Fraschini will not be on the grid at all, which is a shame because they were very much the underdogs of the World Endurance Championship last year, and it seemed like this two-car rule sort of priced them out. And the biggest news out of all this is a manufacturer has had to expand their efforts for their debut. In fact, Aston Martin will be coming into the World Endurance Series with the Valkyrie. Oh my god, a hypercar based off the road car, like the series was meant to do before they dropped that rule. And this will be a homage to the 90s, I think, because this will be a 6-litre naturally aspirated V12. Yep, a V12 in 2025, naturally aspirated as well, so it has no hybrid technology, so it'll be interesting to see how it will keep up with those hybrid cars. Also starting this weekend is IndyCar, so watch out for the 4 drivers from Australasia in the series. You've obviously got Will Power, Scott Dixon and McLaughlin, but also Marcus Armstrong. Keep an eye on him. He is racing in the number 66 Maya Shank car this year, and he could be a bit of a dark horse, I reckon. As for the weekend winners from the races, I'll start with the NASCAR races. Kyle Busch just won the NASCAR truck race, which was a very welcome occasion for those Kyle Busch fans because he hasn't won in ages. Austin Hill absolutely dominated the Xfinity race, and Christopher Bell won a bit of a controversial one in the Cup Series where they threw the yellow flag when last week they let them race to the green after a crash. And if you're wondering how Shane Van Gisbergen ended up, well, he crashed out in that last lap crash and finished about 20th, so not a good first couple of races for Shane Van Gisbergen. And finally, for the support categories for Supercars, Harry Jones picked up where he left off in Carrera Cup, winning all 3 races for now his new team, Jones Motorsport, and Rodney Jane won for the Pro-Am class. This is in fact his first Pro-Am round win since 2008 at Bathurst. Jesus. For the Super Utes, 4 winners from 4 races, Borg, Wanzak, Marjoram and Cedars, but it was David Cedars that won the round altogether. And for the TCM cars, it was Joel Heinrich in the number 95 Camaro winning the races. But Jude Bargwanna really stood out in the championship winning from last year Commodore. He was slipping and sliding all over the place and even won the trophy race as a rookie. So I hope you enjoyed episode 1 of Channel 7 Cylinders News. If you like this video and you want to see more, give a like and a subscribe. The support would be very much appreciated, and I will see you in the next video.